So first off, congratulations on the Owen Award.
Thank you so much. It's an honor that I never thought I would get, and there's a lot of big shoes there that I am now stepping into.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? You go upstairs and you look at that list of people, the names.
I know.
And I remember as a student coming in, you look at the list, and you're like, oh, these are guys. And now we get our age and we start to know these people.
Yeah.
And now here I am sitting with the newest winner. So you were on the...
It's not a winner. It's a recipient.
I'm sorry. You're correct. So let me correct that. Recipient. So you spent a lot of time, obviously, in the Alumni Association on the executive board who actually chooses this.
Correct.
I mean, how does it feel? You know, you were on the one side of it to see the kind of conversations you had to be the person now getting it.
Well, so I had an in. I knew what I had to do.
You had the rubric already.
I did have the rubric. So I started, like on the Alumni Association, I started way back when, and I was a Web Alumni Association executive committee member for years and years and years. Jay Carson was treasurer.
Okay.
And he decided it was too much.
Not too much for you.
Well, I don't know. I think he was concerned about filling out the tax forms, where I wasn't that concerned. So he passed it on. He says, Vic, do you want to become treasurer? So I became treasurer. Then they changed it to secretary-treasurer, because obviously treasurer wasn't enough work, so you had to do both.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I did both. We eventually split it up, but I stayed treasurer for many, many years to try and get some semblance, to try and get some processes in place, to make sure that we did things the same way every single year. We were collecting dues back then.
Yeah,
you remember dues?
Yes, no one paid them. We get the bill every year.
We'd get the bill every year. Some people would pay them. Some people would, when they became electronic payments, they would put, there would be plenty of times when the $25, instead of going to Web Alumni Association, went to Web Institute Annual Fund, and then there's times when people would put, $1,000 in for the Web Annual Fund, but they really put it into to the dues. Okay. So there was so much going back and forth, switching, whose account is it in? We finally made a memorandum. Jen Colmer was president at the time, where we dropped dues because it was a lot of effort for very little. And Web Institute will fund us if we ever need money. So that was good. Yeah. We did that anyway. So
when you were on that committee and you were looking at the Owen Award specifically, what was like the most important thing, do you think, from your perspective when you were picking an awardee?
Well, from my perspective, it was like the two things were people that Webbies would know. So service to web, but on a playing field that alumni would know, because there's plenty of people that do service to web that alumni might not know, right? Yeah. They're kind of in the shadows, right? So it was trying to be out there, and of course, the second is second most important stepstone was, being out there in industry and people in industry knowing who you are. So those were the two big things that I would look for in the Owen Award winners. I think we did a pretty good job on that. During my tenure as vice president, we tried to, because there's a lot of qualified people. Webbies are good, right? They give back to their school, they give to the industry, you know them. So it's not an easy task to pick them, right? But we were picking a lot from older generations, right? And we couldn't make that step forward because but this guy is so good. I'm like, yeah. But he was still from the, he's...
You'll hang on a little longer,
I know, right?
Just hold on.
So I'm glad that we've kind of made some progress bringing it into, the 21st century.
Yeah, I think at that time you also cleaned up a few people that may have been overlooked for a period of time
We
that
did
needed to be
We did do
pointed out,
that.
and that
We
was a
did
good
do that.
thing, for
Yeah,
sure.
that is true.
So when we came up with this idea, reflecting, I saw you won the award, and this was a great idea to get this conversation going. One of the things I realized is I interface with you at different levels in the Alumni Association, through the board and stuff like that, but I don't really know you. So we're going to go back in time.
Back in time.
So if I don't know you, probably other people don't know you. So let's go back.
You know this is going to be my Owen Award acceptance speech,
Could
right?
be. I'm
gonna go
hoping
back
to do
in
it.
time.
It's going to be tech for you.
Okay, this will be tech for me.
Let's get pre-web.
Pre-web.
Were you always from Long Island? I think you were, but I don't know.
I was always from Long Island. Well, I was born in Hollis.
Oh, right. Some people consider Queens Long Island. Others don't.
Yeah, well, I never knew I was born in Hollis. I didn't realize, I was at TSA, I was getting my TSA pre-check.
Okay.
And the woman says to me, well, where were you born? I was like, I was born in Queens. She's like, well, where in Queens? I'm like, I don't know. I was born in Terrace Heights Hospital. She's like, you were born in Hollis? I'm like, I don't know. Is that where it is? So anyway, I was born in Hollis. But my parents still lived in Nassau County.
Gotcha. Just across the street.
I went to Sewanaka High School. I'm surprised we're still allowed to call it Sewanaka High School. But I was in a pre-engineering class. I switched. I went to Cary High School first. And then Sewanaka had 3 different pre-engineering high school courses. Mm-hmm. And 3 out of the 4, you got to stay at your high school and get bused in the afternoons. But the one I chose was like an all-day affair. So I switched over to Sewanaka High School. It was called INA, Instrumentation Automation. So I kind of knew I wanted to be an engineer.
Was there a family history of engineering?
No, there wasn't, but I was, I think, adept at it.
Gotcha.
And I think that's what interested me. However, I was also editor of the school paper, so and I was a writer. So the whole English department were like, why would you want to be an engineer? You should be a writer. I'm like, yeah, but I want to be able to make a living. So the English department wasn't very happy with me, but.
Now, were you a Bodie person back in the day?
I was not a Bodie person. Okay. I've never really been a Bodie person. I tried to be a Bodie person here at Webb, and Steve Matz and I, Stevo, took out one of the small, what is it, a laser? Took out a laser one night.
Okay.
And we got out, I don't know, 20 or 30 feet, and we couldn't get the board down. We couldn't get the board down, and we just...
Drifting away.
We just drifted away, and we drifted further out and further towards Wellwyn.
Okay.
And we came up on the Wellwyn beach, like we came up on a Wellwyn beach far, far away. And it was getting dark, because it took a long time for us to finally make it back. And Steffa left me at Wellwyn Beach with the boat.
I'll get help.
He says, I'll go get help.
Yeah, okay.
Like the Wellwyn man is going to come and get me, right? Back then there was the Wellwyn man. So anyway, he got guys to come back, and I guess whatever they did, they got us back. Yeah, then I didn't sail anymore.
Fair enough. So.
So I applied to Webb. They didn't take me.
So how'd you hear about Webb?
You don't know that story?
No.
Everyone knows that story.
I don't know that story.
So in Newsday, like when I was in, 9th or 10th grade, when you start looking at colleges, in Newsday on a Sunday in human interest, there was a story about a basketball team from a college on Long Island that won its first basketball game in 10 years. And they said that the president of the school bought everyone beer and pizza. And I said, that could be a school I would like. So that's how I found out about Webb.
So even when we're losing, we're winning.
Exactly. Well, but you won.
We won.
You won.
But not for long.
And we had, even when I got here, we had we had a winning season. We won 3 out of 10. So that was a real big winning season for us. We had Mitch Demahowski was in my class. He's like, I don't know, 6'7". So that was a big.
That helps.
That was a big help. Well, Webb didn't take me. Admiral Bryan I don't know, they told me I was too involved extracurricularly, and they didn't think I would be happy here.
Okay.
That's what they told me. Back then, it's
Yeah.
different now. But that's what they told me back then. So I went to George Washington University, and my plan was to be a biomedical engineer. So I was engineering, and I was also like a bio major. So I was a double major, as much as any freshman double can be. So I was taking pre-engineering classes and pre-bio classes, and then I reapplied. And I reapplied and I got in. Who knows? It's not like I did great at George Washington University. I did okay, but.
So what was it like back then to get into it? What was the process they put you through? Do you remember?
I don't think there was, I wasn't a PF. I don't think I just came for an interview for sure.
With the president, right? Just the president?
Yeah, you came for the interview with the president. What I heard was there was a first screening, and then there was the second screening of putting people in to get interviewed.
Yeah.
And then you got interviewed, and the president either let you in or didn't.
Wow. Okay.
So.
Quite different than what we do today. Right?
That is
So
correct.
Pretty amazing.
And like I said, I don't remember being, I'm sure I wasn't a overnight PF.
Yeah.
Do they have that now, right?
Oh yeah, everyone.
Yeah.
They have to be.
No, we did not. And I don't think I met
Especially
any other.
local kids,
I
yeah.
don't think I met any other students or anything like that.
Yeah, I came on a Monday. No, back then it was Tuesday. Excuse me. I came on a Tuesday as a high school student, and I was able to had my interview, but I also got to sit in on the Tuesday lecture.
Oh, okay.
Which is now Monday lecture.
Yeah.
Very confusing.
Yeah.
And then some students came to pick me apart and see what I knew and what I was all
Yeah.
about.
No, I didn't have anyone come and pick me apart. I just had to sit in front of an admiral.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is,
It's good times, right?
yeah, exactly. And he was a Navy admiral. That's Admiral Bryant,
Were you able,
who eventually let me in.
were you able to find the way out the door? Because I've heard that people
yeah.
turn around like, how do I get out
I
of
don't
here?
even remember. Yeah, I don't remember my interview. I really don't remember my interview at all. I do remember Admiral Bryant. He was here, so after they took me, he was here for the first 2 years. And then there was always, Navy admirals were always, that was the plum at the top of their career was to come be president of Webb. Then, when I was a junior, they switched and we got a Coast Guard admiral.
Stabile, right?
Stabile.
Admiral Stabile.
Yeah, okay, Admiral Stabile. And then after him, Dr. Conti. We went
Yeah.
straight to,
Academia for him. Mm-hmm. Now, who was the dean when you were here as a student?
Dean Hadler.
It was always
Well,
Hadler? Or
it was
Jeff-
Hadler, and then it was
Wiggins.
Wiggins.
Did he show
Yeah,
up when you
Wiggins
were-
was here, but I don't think he was dean yet. It was the Duck,
Oh, Dr.
Dr. Urban.
Yeah.
He might have
Maybe
been,
a freshman year or so?
yeah, maybe.
Okay.
But it was definitely Dean Hadler. He was my thesis advisor,
Okay.
too. Did you hear that story?
We're going to come back to that. Let me ask.
All right, go ahead.
So so it's always interesting. I think I question myself and my classmates and some of my students. You have this image of coming to Webb, right? And you get into Webb and you're excited, and then you show up. So how does those first few days, what you experienced, compare to what you thought it was going to be? Were you shocked, or were you
Well,
pretty much was what you thought it
So
would be?
I was already a year in school, right? So I don't think it was as much of a shock. We had, I don't know what they do now, but we had study skills workshop. We had, they brought someone in on whatever, Wednesday nights to teach us how to study and, study skills workshop. I don't know. I think it was what I anticipated it to be. I think it was what I anticipated it to be, grueling and hardcore, and even as a freshman, it was, and probably worse, right? You probably get used to it as it goes on.
Calluses visible.
I'm trying to think if I had any, all-nighters as a freshman. I hope I didn't. I remember I had Prof. Rowan's Introduction to Marine Engineering class, and I remember my first grade on the first quiz, 91. And I think,
Wow.
I don't know, like half the class failed. I got a 9. I think that set the story for me and Prof. Rowan, right? I think he's like, oh, maybe she will be okay. I don't know if he thought that all the time. But I think that he might have given me the benefit of the doubts in,
Yeah.
over because I started off with a bang, right?
The old first impression, right?
The first impression,
Yep.
exactly.
So what was the killer course in that year? The microphone's
Yeah,
disappearing.
all right. The killer course.
Yeah.
It probably Rowan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was the killer course every year, probably.
Yeah,
He was the tough.
it was a well-earned reputation,
He
for
was
sure.
he was the toughest.
Okay.
He was definitely the toughest.
So how big was your class when you started?
We only started with 23. They accepted 25. Ron Kiss's son was waitlisted at the Naval Academy. He was in our class,
Okay. Wow,
Accepted to
I
our
didn't know
class.
this. Wow.
But he was waitlisted at the Naval Academy. When the Naval Academy let him in, it was bye-bye web.
Gotcha.
So that my class always had, we like to believe, we always had like a special connection with Ron Kiss because his son was supposed to be a classmate of ours. And the way I remember it, whether it's true or not, is the other person who accepted that didn't come was like Harrington's son or grandson or nephew or,
Okay.
you know Harrington?
Roy Harrington from
Yeah.
the famous textbook, yeah.
From the famous textbook.
Which Rowan quizzed us on regularly.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
It all comes back to
so
Rowan.
Harrington, someone from Harrington was, so we started 23. 3 women, 20 guys. My classmate left at midterms. That was it. So I had a single
Where were you guys living at that point?
over the tank.
You were over at Tank.
We were living over the tank. So she left at midterms. Oh, sorry. One guy left after like 3 weeks to be a plumber.
I read that in the yearbook there. The
Okay,
Binnacle was
yeah,
in there. I was
yeah.
trying to understand that. Kind of
He left. Gene was the second one to leave. Then Biff. Biff was the third to leave at the end of the first semester. And then we stayed strong until the beginning of our junior year, until the end of our sophomore year. We lost one other, Dan Michaud, and he's he left. We still keep in contact with him.
Right? Yeah. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
you know the way, and like my last reunion, whenever that would have been, 80. When I graduated, 88. So it would have been.
23.
Yeah, we had a little party at my house, and we FaceTimed him. So, yeah, he's still.
Yeah, I'm always amazed by the exes, the communication that
Yeah.
stands there. No matter why they chose to leave,
Yeah.
some of them still donate
Yeah.
every year. They're part of the. It's an interesting bond you create in those
And
first
then,
few years.
My class, we had a classmate who we lost, Marty Johnson. Marty
Yes.
Johnson was on the Cougar Ace. He worked for the salvage company. He worked for the salvage arm of Crowley, whoever they were called. I forget who they're called now. But went to salvage the Cougar Ace, which was a ro-ro, and that was taking on water in Alaska.
Yep.
And somehow slipped and fell, and yeah.
Yeah, it was sad.
So we got the model cutter is
Yep.
partially dedicated from my class.
And then Crowley put together a scholarship in his honor.
Yeah.
So that was very nice.
And his sister also came to our reunion in 23.
And she's been in contact with us about
Yeah.
offshore wind stuff that she's involved with
Yeah.
to this day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Great bonds.
yeah.
So what did you were too busy, according to the Admiral in high school, to come to Webb because you'd be
Yeah.
too distracted. So what did you distract yourself when you were a student here with?
Oh, well, I distracted myself. So I was the Binnacle business manager for 3 years. So I would go out and talk to companies and get ads. Mm-hmm. And the more money we had for the Binnacle, the whole quest was to have enough money so we would have a color cover. That was the quest. And I did it. I don't know. Maybe I should have been like some sort of salesman maybe I will be a salesman in my
There you
next
go.
life, because I was able to. We had quite a few color covers. I was able to get some big companies to, donate, whatever, $200. Whatever it was. It was not like it was huge.
Well, back then, yeah. Oh,
But I guess back
we
then.
made it, right?
Yeah, back then. So we thank all those companies that allowed us to get color covers for the Binnacle, because the Binnacle had to pay for themselves. I
Yeah,
guess that's not true anymore.
I don't believe so.
No. No more business managers for the Binnacle.
So I was, speaking of Binnacles, I was
Yeah.
digging through the Binnacles during the period you were here, trying to
Oh.
understand what web was like back in the good old
Okay.
days. And so I came across a reference to the Greek games.
Oh,
So what was that all about?
well, so I was also social committee chairperson.
Oh, okay. So right in your
So I
lap,
was-
okay.
So I was.
Shocking, by the way. I didn't see that coming.
I was business manager. I was social committee chairperson. I think I got nominated that probably as a freshman, because I came from a school that we had Greek games, right? So I'm like, let's have a party. We're going to call it Greek Weekend for a day. And each of the classes then were their own fraternity.
Gotcha.
And then we had a set of games that we had to do. We had shave the balloon.
Okay.
We had drink a beer bowl, where the freshmen, so that was probably maybe that was when I was a junior. Maybe that was when I was a junior. All the classes were legal except for the freshman class at that time. So we had the freshman class drink the equivalent of a beer bowl in milk. They did not fare well.
No.
The team that fared, so that must have been when I was a sophomore, because the juniors, I remember, fared well. They invented this contraption, because all of us were, doing the regular tap into the cups, and then you get a lot of bubbles and stuff like that. The juniors invented something where they siphoned it off the bottom. They siphoned the beer off the bottom, so they had no foam, so they were able to drink it and win. We did keg throwing. Because
Now, is that true? There was a rumor that you were the winner of the keg throwing. Is that true?
I doubt it.
Okay.
But there might have been.
That's the story I heard when I came as a freshman, that there was this famous Webby that
I'm a
could
girl.
out there.
You're like, I think the boys, I think the boys beat me. But there is a picture.
Yes, I
for
see.
sure.
Yes, there is.
I don't think I won. I'm all for boys, not in girl sports. Maybe I would have won if we had a girls and a boys,
There you go,
for
I gotcha.
sure. But I don't remember what else we had. But we had slip and slide. We had we had a lot. I think we had a lot of fun.
Good fun. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of I'm trying to remember my other party. Trying to remember the other parties I threw. I used to, because I found out that there was quite a bit of money for social committee, and they weren't using it. I don't know why. So we did Friday night movies, which was in that room there was our TV room.
Yep.
And so I would go to Blockbuster or Glencoe Video. I can't remember. There wasn't a Blockbuster. It was probably Glencoe Video or something like that. And I'd rent 2 or 3 movies, and I'd buy 2 giant things of popcorn. So for $15, we had a night out in the movies, right? And people would come down. There was always, to get free popcorn back then,
Yeah.
they would come down. And we had if one week it was Bill Murray movies. We did little
The
things.
actor Bill Murray, not the employee
Oh yeah,
Bill Murray.
yeah, exactly.
Not to be confused.
Not to be confused. Correct. Yeah, we had little themes.
Yeah, times were different before the internet was in every room and
Exactly.
everybody's desk and everybody's phone, right? We
didn't have phones.
We had no phones. We had no cable
No,
TV.
we had no
nothing.
phones.
Yeah.
We had the 2 phones. I think I'm trying to think if we got a 3rd phone
In the closet.
when I was here, in the closet, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of breakups happened in those phone booths over the years.
Yeah.
A lot of sad faces coming when those doors open.
Well, since I was a local girl, I was able to bring the boys out and to all my local haunts, right? And they were happy to have me.
Yes, you provided a valuable resource.
I was a pretty good wing girl.
That's it, fair enough. So, Stepping back a second, when you were coming to web, did you have a plan or an idea about what you wanted to be or where you were going in the industry, or were you kind of just coming in to see where it took you?
I think I was just coming in. I had no plan. Like I said, there wasn't engineers in my family, and I wasn't a boating person. I think that I wanted to have a shipyard somewhere in my career, go to a shipyard somewhere in my career, because I had good experiences. You know, I worked at Newport News as a freshman
Okay.
on the Teddy Roosevelt, on an aircraft carrier.
Nice.
It took me 3 weeks to be able to find my place on board. Like in the morning, they'd be like, "What?" They're like, "Vic, you're late." I'm like, "I got here a half an hour ago." Like, but like I couldn't find my way to the auxiliary engine room number 2. So yeah, I had really no plan.
Did you start to develop one over time? Did something begin to?
So I think my plan started to gel when, my plan started to gel. Not that my plan ever panned out. My plan started to gel when I went to graduate school. So I went to MIT for Ocean Systems Management.
So the Hank Marcus program?
The Hank Marcus program, and I think I wanted to work for a shipping company. That was the plan. I'm like, I want to go work for a shipping company, right? This was my other Dean Hadler story, which I told at his memorial that we had here.
Yep.
So when Jen Waters also spoke, and Jen Waters spoke so eloquently about him and said that when she wanted to go to graduate school, she went to have him write her letter of recommendation, and he was so happy and he was overflowing, and of course he would write her recommendation. So then I went and I spoke, like, Jen, I had a little bit of a different experience. When I told Dean Hadler I wanted to go to MIT, he's like, really? Do you really think you want to go to MIT? You think that's for you? Of course, in Dean Hadler's voice, and he says, I don't know if you're cut out for it.
Wow.
I said, Dean Hadler, don't worry. I'm not going for naval architecture. I'm going for ocean systems management.
There's no hydro in my future.
Yeah. There will never be another differential equation. We don't have to worry about it. I'm going for ocean systems management. He's like, oh, okay, that's a different story. I can write your recommendation. So anyway, I got in. Five of us.
5 from your class?
5 from my class.
And there had to be other people from Web there at the same time, right? Older students?
Listen, there was 5 of us. We didn't even mix with anyone else because we had 5 of us.
True Webbies, yeah, okay.
Exactly. Mitch got into Sloan.
Right out of Web?
Right out of Web.
Wow.
There's a story for that. You want to hear that one?
Sure, why not?
Mitch did not get accepted to Sloan. And when I was going up to MIT, because I was accepted into Hank's program, I was going up for some sort of visit or something. Mitch is like, he lives in Massachusetts, right? He's like, come on, I'll come up with you, and whatever. So when we're up there, he gets an appointment with the dean of Sloan and talks his way in. And then Mitch got accepted to Sloan.
There it is. That was pretty good.
Yeah. He probably had some liquid encouragement. But it worked.
It worked. Okay.
It worked, and so Mitch got accepted into Sloan as right out of school. Ian Bush was in Ocean Systems Management and NAVARC. Mm-hmm. Oh, maybe there wasn't. Oh, yeah, the 5. Mike Hughes and Dave Kring both stayed for PhDs. Yeah.
No,
they were the smarty pants.
I was going to say, I'm sure I had no problem writing Hughes' recommendation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, oh yeah, I'll write 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the 5 of us.
All right.
Yeah.
Did you apply anywhere else?
No.
Just
that was it. Like, it's either that or work.
Okay.
And so, yeah. So I went looking for a job for shipping companies, and I was gonna start working, hopefully, for Liberty Maritime.
Wow, okay.
And they said, Vic, we want you, but we don't have any contracts yet. It was like right in the very beginning of Liberty Maritime.
Okay.
The way I remember it. They're probably gonna, Vic, you're wrong. They're like, listen, we're waiting for this big contract. We're waiting for this big government contract. As soon as we get that, we can hire you. I'm like, okay. And so I'm waiting. And I'm waiting a couple of weeks. And then my mom's like, you gotta get a job. Like, can't I just wait a couple more weeks? So I went and I interviewed with Mr. Cushing, Sierra Cushing Company.
Yep.
And Mr. Cushing offered me a job, and I tried to postpone him as much as possible. And then finally I'm like, all right, I'm gonna work for Mr. Cushing, which is a great opportunity. That was a great company to work for back then. And I'm sure now, but back then, top notch. And then 2 weeks later, Liberty calls, and they're like, Vic, we got a job for you. I had just told Mr. Cushing yes, I don't know, a couple of days before. And I'm like, I can't burn my bridges. So I went with Mr. Cushing, and I had 6 great years there. I tell the story. He says he never said it, but
Well, he's not here to say that, so you can say whatever you want.
Who knows if he might watch it? But he says, I didn't hire any co-pilots. Everyone I hire is a pilot. He says, and he just throws you out in the nest, and you gotta figure it out, right? So, one of my first jobs with that when I worked for Mr. Cushing was on the MV Santa Clara. It was like a breakbulk ship that got caught in a nor'easter coming up the coast, and it was dark. When it was still light, they had a whole set of containers on the top hatch, on the fore hatch. When the sun rose, they had no container. So, turns out that 3 of those containers had like 35-gallon drums of arsenic in them, in the containers. So it became a huge search and recovery for these containers of arsenic, which they found some, right? Yeah, on the bottom of the ocean.
You're going 15 knots. You didn't know for how many hours you didn't know they fell off.
Yeah, exactly.
Where did they fall off?
Where did they fall off?
Somewhere
well, they fell off the Jersey coast somewhere.
Well, then that's okay. Then you can probably leave me. You'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Jersey.
But it was a big legal case. Wow. A big, so I had to go down. Mr. Cushing pushed me out of the nest. He's like, well, you go down and survey the ship. How do I know how to survey a ship, right? I was like, this is my first project. And the guys told me, they're like, listen, just take lots of pictures, take lots of notes, and when you come up here, we'll develop the pictures, because there's no there's no cell phones. It was like, I had to take pictures, and then we'll figure it out. But yeah, it was very interesting. I worked on a lot of interesting projects. Mr. Cushing was the expert. Sierra Cushing Company was the expert witness on the Exxon Valdez. Okay. On Exxon's side. So there was a lot of interesting work we did on that technical type stuff. I had a lot of good. I was a big one that we had back that I was also a project manager on. Was we did spare parts, planned maintenance, and condition-based monitoring for 9 Del Monte reefer vessels that were being built in Spain. And listen, that's coming full circle now, because I'm working on spare parts for this new Governor's Island ferry that I'm working on a Governor's Island ferry. and right now it's on its way up. It's right off of, it's just past Key West. It's on its way up. And the last,
Eastern? Where's it coming
it came out of Conrad.
Conrad, okay.
And the last two things that need to get done are spare parts and training. So I'm helping along with that. But my spare parts roots come from Mr. Cushing.
So you did some little ship owning type stuff at some point.
Yeah. That's true.
You kind of got
That's
the
true.
technical side there.
I worked for ABS 2
So
years.
after Cushing, you went to ABS?
After Cushing, I went to ABS.
Here in New York area?
Top of the World Trade Center,
Okay.
106th floor, World Trade 2. I was in Technical Consistency, which is their internal quality group, for a year. And then they put me over in rule development because all the things that I was finding in Technical Consistency all had to make its way over into the rules. So Technical Consistency for them was making sure you couldn't rule shop between the different offices. So to make sure that everyone is doing the same. So if there's any gray area, that we then came up with a decision of how to adjudicate that gray area, then that had to go back into the rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there wasn't a gray area anymore. So I spent 2 years there. And then I got an opportunity at NASCO, 6 years at NASCO.
That's a big move for you because everything else was in New York, right?
Yeah, it
Picked
was a
up and left.
huge move. Yeah. I was only going to stay a couple of years, but we were just doing, NASCO was doing really good at the time. I was supervisor initial design naval architecture. I got there in 97. In 99, we got the tote roll-on, roll-off contract.
The Orca class?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we got BP, the 1.3 million barrel tankers, 4 of those, two totes, 4 tankers, and then TAKE, and I was the NAVARC IPT lead on TAKE. So 3 years, 3 contract awards.
Got you back together with Ian Bush. Was he there at the time too?
Ian was there. Ian's been there his whole career.
Whole career, okay.
Dan Svilagoy has been there his whole career.
Worked with Jay Carson when you were there, and
Jay Carson was, Jay Carson was there towards the end of my time there.
okay, and then Bill Hale.
Bill Hale was there, correct.
The whole team together.
The whole the whole big team.
All right. So then what? Then you come back to New York and put out. Is that when you started your own
My
shingle,
shingle.
basically?
I did. I didn't know what I was going to do. So my father passed away 2002. They tell you don't make any big moves for a year, whatever. So so I moved back to New York. I flew my mom out and we drove cross country.
Okay.
So she comes. So I left NASCO, put her in the car, send a pod of all my furniture and whatever back home, and we drive cross country, trip of a lifetime. And when I got back, I was like, all right, now what am I going to do? Because I had no job. Let me figure out what I'm going to do. And NASCO, I tried to leave there with no outstanding work, right? I wanted to make sure TAKE everything was approved, at least on the NAVARC side. So that's what took a long time, because we were up to stability Rev G or something. So it took a long time. But all of my NAVARC products were approved, so that's when I decided I could leave. I wasn't leaving anyone hanging. And then when I got home, they're like, listen, can you do this for us? Can you do this for us? I put my computer on. I didn't have my computer on for like the 2.5, 3 weeks that we were driving cross country, which you could do back then.
Yeah.
I'm not putting my computer on. It's not like I had a phone that I got email, right? And there was a bunch of emails from them. Do you think you can do this with us? We need some help on the HVAC diagram or whatever it was. And so I had 6 months of full-time NASCO work.
Wow.
From New York.
So you invented the remote work.
Matt Tedesco invented remote work.
Okay.
Because he was the one that said, Vic, I left NASCO. He left NASCO like 2 years before me. And he's working for them. I think he was in Boston at the time because Kathy was at MIT going through Sloan Leaders of Manufacturing,
Yep.
right? So he was working remotely as a consultant for them. He's like, you should try it. All right. And never looked back. Like, I had those first 6 months with NASCO. Then I got my first non-NASCO consulting gig with Atlantic Marine, which is BAE Systems now. And that just opened me up to all the mid-tier yards on the Gulf. And I just, coming from NASCO, they thought I was a super genius. They're like, wow, this girl knows everything, right? So I worked with many the Gulf Coast mid-tier and Gulf Coast, Florida mid-tier yards. Even up here, I've done some work with the mid-tier yards here, mid-tier yards on the West Coast. So yeah, it was. I probably my consulting career has been 99% shipyard efficiencies, engineering efficiencies. I was Doge before it was Doge. Right? That's like my whole career has been trying to do process improvements on engineering and production at shipyards.
So that means now must be a very interesting time for you, right? With all this talk.
It should be. We'll see what happens.
I mean, you getting noise from industry suggesting, or are they just all waiting too? Everybody's kind of
I think
waiting to see what
everyone's
happens.
waiting.
Okay.
I think everyone's waiting. I had some conversations this morning on some thoughts and some projects that we could probably be advancing. So
what are you looking forward to in the future? Are you planning on, is this going to keep just doing this? Do you have other plans?
I'm going to keep doing this, but I've already slowed down a little bit, so, we lost Chris, and I'm like, why am I working so hard? Like I worked really, really hard for so many years. I traveled, like pre-COVID, I traveled 26 weeks a year. I was on the road all the time, making plenty of money. But so now I'm like, my mom's 94. I'm like, let me just slow down a little. Let's just take time. Stop and smell the roses, right?
Yep.
So I'm taking up golf.
Okay.
I've taken golf lessons when I was in San Diego, before they put up the stadium downtown, there used to be a driving range downtown. And I used to stop at the driving range. It used to be ladies' night on Tuesday nights, ladies' night. You bought a bucket of balls, $7. And there was a golf pro that would walk back and forth and give you tips. So, and there'd be like, I don't know, 3 of us there. So I got a lot of tips. And then I got a set of Callaway clubs for free. For what I was.
Okay, how does one accomplish that?
I was helping NASCO writing, because I do a lot of, as a writer, remember we go back to high school, I was a writer. I do a lot of proposal writing also.
Okay.
So I was helping NASCO on writing a proposal, and the hotel I was staying at was a Crowne Plaza. I saw a little thing that says, stay 3 nights at a Crowne Plaza. Get a sleeve of Callaway balls. And it's like, stay 5 nights at a Crowne Plaza. Get a dozen Callaway balls. It was some big Callaway, giveaway. And I was there for months. Right? I was there weeks at least, like 6 weeks to start. It was probably 6 weeks to start, and then we wait, and then whatever. So, 2 or 3 months later, I get a sleeve of Callaway balls in the mail. I'm like, oh, all right, that's good. Next thing, a couple weeks later, I get a little envelope from Callaway, and it's Callaway gift card. I scratch it off. It's like $100. Then I get another one. I scratch it off. It's $250. I got $350 worth of Callaway gift cards, and I don't golf. And everyone's like, you better go get fitted for clubs. I'm like, fitted for clubs?
Taking this seriously.
I know, I got to take it serious. That's a lot of money to spend at Callaway, right? I'm not going to buy off the shelf.
What are you, a peasant? Come on.
Exactly. So I went and got fitted for Callaway clubs, but he says, what's your handicap? I'm like, I don't really play golf.
I thought that was too personal a question to ask somebody. Hey.
Yeah. I said, I don't really play golf. He says, then why are you getting clubs? I'm like, because I got $1,350 to spend. So I said, I go to the driving range So sure enough, like I take a few swings and like it's terrible. But then muscle memory kicked in. And I start smacking these balls. He's like, holy moly. He says, you should be a golfer. This is like 15 years ago. You should be a golfer. Oh no, it wasn't 15. It was because I just checked it was close. Because I think my clubs are from 2011. Yeah, so it's a long time ago, right? So every now and then I take a lesson. So a couple of years ago, I took a lesson at Villa Roma. Have you ever go to Villa Roma?
Yeah, up in the Catskills, sure.
Up at the
I know
Catskills.
exactly.
Right. Yeah, so I took a lesson, and that guy is like, do you golf? He's like, these are nice clubs. Do you golf? I'm like, no. So,
I just stay in hotels.
Muscle memory kicked in. I start smacking him. He's like, you should be a golfer. So last summer, I went, and it was a different pro at Villa Roma. And he's like, you should be a golfer. He's like, you're better than all the women on this course. So I'm like, maybe I should take up golf. So I'm going to take up golf.
Interesting.
That's my new.
Because I didn't hear you say anything about athletics through high school or through web.
Oh, I was a swimmer.
Okay.
I was a swimmer through high school. I was a foosball player at Webb.
Golf-wise.
I did a triathlon. I didn't start. I never ran a block in my life, except back in grammar school, you used to have to do the presidential fitness physical fitness awards, right? So I used to practice for those, but I was never a runner. And then I at 50, I'm like, I wonder if I can run. And I can. So then I started doing 5Ks. And then I did triathlons because I was a swimmer.
Yeah, that's the hard part.
So that's the hard
right?
part was done. I'm like, I just have to build up to a 5K and ride a bike. Everyone can ride a bike. So I did 2 Town of Hempstead triathlons. The first one was during, it was a hurricane down south. So I had been practicing the swim in the ocean because I'm a pool swimmer. I'm not a pool swimmer. So I've been practicing in the ocean, and then they canceled the swim. I'm like, that's the only part I'm good at. They canceled the swim because the waters were too rough off of Jones Beach, and they made us run in the sand instead.
Oh.
That was terrible.
That's very good. Yeah.
So then the year after, I'm like, well, so then the year after I did it again, but then, I did a couple of little sprint triathlon, ladies triathlons, Whisper women's triathlons or whatever. They do it at, they have it at Eisenhower Park. It's like 8 laps in the pool. It was good. And then I was so happy. I went on the app, like as soon as I crossed the finish line, it's like, you came in 5th place. Came in 5th place.
Look at you.
I'm like high-fiving everyone. I was so happy. Get on the phone. Ma, I came in 5th place. She's like, how many people were in your category? 5? And I'm like,
boy, that's some tough love, Ma.
Yeah,
Come on, let me have my moment.
I was last. I was 5th out of 5.
But for a moment there.
For a moment, listen, I was so happy. The people thought I was crazy. Like all the organizers, high-fiving everyone. Yeah, she's tough. Yeah, those are my sports.
Okay, fair enough.
I still swim.
So, pivot a little bit. Going back, we talked about you being in the Alumni Association leadership for quite a bit of time, more than most.
More than most.
I mean, I did my little stint early on as the young folk on the the executive committee.
And now you're a historian.
I've been a historian, yeah, because Larry Ward walked out on me one day and said, "You're the historian."
I might ask you if you want to give that up. I could be historian.
we can chat offline for sure.
We can chat offline.
But I'm just trying,
Unless you can for sure stay there. Don't worry.
Thank
I
you.
won't.
I need extra to do.
Okay.
So, as you do, clearly. If you're if you're playing golf. So only if you're off golf season you can do it. So in today's day and age, looking at what the Alumni Association is now? We already talked about the changeover in the past of stopping with the dues and working more closely with Web itself. What do you see as the purpose of the Web Alumni Association at this point?
When I was president, I guess one of the bad things that happened when I was president was COVID, right? Mm-hmm. But one of the good things that happened was, I think, COVID, right? We did so many engagements, virtual engagements during my 2 years. Yeah. And I kind of, I think the alumni ate it up. I think they really like that. I think as an alumni myself, I would like to see more of that, right? Okay. It's not just homecoming and the banquet. It should be things like this, yeah. Right?
Any challenges you think for the Alumni Association going forward?
It's always finding volunteers. They don't know how good it's going to be until they get in, right? But yeah, I say it's a challenge finding volunteers, but we always find volunteers. We always find them, and they're
some
always.
People will just wait and be asked. I mean, they're not going to volunteer themselves.
Exactly.
If they go to them,
right?
You have a chance.
So I'm on the nominating committee, and we're busy finding people to nominate now, and it's just making those connections.
Okay. Speaking of connections, as a of our age ilk, right? You being the 80s, mid to late 80s, me being the early 90s. Sometimes we're lumped into this thing called the lost generation. Yeah. You've heard of this term, about maybe getting the amount we give and things like that. And I'm curious, any thoughts from your perspective on how we can re-engage maybe that lost generation, if at all possible?
I think it is possible. I'm trying. I was class agent for years and years and years, and we were average to below average givers. And I gave it up, and our new class agent is just doing a great job. Oh, Steve Fagan.
Steve Fagan, okay.
Steve Fagan is our new class agent. He's our new secretary of the Web Alumni Association, so he's volunteering. And he just, I don't know, he just did a great job getting us engaged. And who knows, maybe it's now that people are older, their kids are in college, maybe they have more time now. Maybe they didn't have time before.
I try to think about it a little bit, and when I joined the web faculty and engaging with people of my era, I tried to share the story of how some things have changed and some for the better. I think there were some things that probably lingered in people's minds that bothered them a little bit. And I try to say, well, come take a look at us now. Mm-hmm. So, you've had the opportunity, coming back to New York and living in New York, but also as the leader of the Alumni Association, you got to serve on the web board. I mean, from your perspective, reflections on what web is today versus maybe what it was back in the 80s.
So back in the 80s. So I think it's great that we're getting more and more women involved. Gail Marie just told me that there's 9 women in
of now, yeah.
In the senior class.
Yep, and it looks like we're gonna.
I think when I was here, there was 9 women altogether. At some point, because we had 2, accepted 3. We wound up with 2. The year after me, 1, Chrissy Chatterton, mm-hmm. Schleicher. The year after that, Holly from Glen Cove. She didn't stay. Yeah. And so the classes on the class on either side. So when I was a freshman, when I was a freshman. So there was the earlier classes had quite a few more women. Then from my class on, when I was a senior, the juniors only had 1, sophomores had whatever it was. It was tough. Yeah. Oh yeah, well, when I was a junior, we had like maybe 5 in the senior class, but then 1, none, and then So I'm happy that there's more women looking at engineering. Even back then, I don't even think, like in my pre-engineering class in high school, there was only 2 women. It's like they didn't even They weren't even thinking.
Yeah.
They weren't even thinking that this is something that they can do. So I'm glad that they're realizing that this is something that they can do. What was the question?
Well, just your reflections on differences then to
reflections.
now, and
Yeah.
'cause-
Listen, I love the idea of the two ship designs, right? Because what your ultimate project there as a senior is you have your thesis, but then you also have your ship design, and I love and that's what it's all about.
you would
Right?
think, yeah.
Well,
All the
that's what it's
torture
all
leads
about.
to that
Yeah,
end game.
exactly.
Yeah, right.
So I'm really happy that the juniors get a chance, and I've been a mentor on a few of those junior project different years. Like my year that I'm doing it this year. I've done it quite a few years. So that's like I'm glad the curriculum. You as the dean, curriculum, right?
I try.
Yeah. I'm glad that the curriculum is changing to what we need in our industry now, right?
Yeah.
Granted, I don't know how we fit it all in because you need the basics too, right?
Yep, you can't. Yeah, that's the one challenge I have. The time doesn't get any longer, so
Exactly.
you're still trying to do that foundation and still be able to handle
Yeah.
newer things, and it's a balancing act for sure.
Yeah.
But the argument I always give is, I went to the school in the 90s. I've been able to keep up because of the foundation that I built at Webb, both in the knowledge base and the skill base, but also the ability to work hard, the ability to think critically, the ability to take on challenges with a little bit of confidence. So as long as we're still instilling that, I don't know what's going to be out there 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. So I can't teach to that, but you can still provide that foundation that lets them take off. And so we're constantly balancing
and that's,
that.
that's the great thing about Webb. And that's why everyone wants to hire a Webby, right? Because you instill that. They know what they're doing. They have confidence to do it. And give them a problem and they'll be able to figure it out.
Yep. So first, just want to thank you for doing this. And
You're welcome.
I want to congratulate you again on the
you so
award.
much.
I think it's well deserved. I know, our paths have crossed quite a bit in the last, say, decade or so through activities here at Webb, and you've been a great supporter of the school and of our students. So I appreciate that. So, any last things you want to say before we wrap this up for the day?
I wanted to say, where's the foosball table? That was the foosball table is gone. When I got here, I wanted to.
We could end with a little game.
We could end with a little game.
I'm not going to play golf against you. I'm not going to. You're too good for me.
I guess like my closing argument would be that, Webb gave me I'm thankful for Webb for finally accepting me. Gave me that great foundation. I lucked out with quite a few good jobs in my career that set me up for success, and just continuing along that. And I love that I'm back here on the island so that I can be closer and make sure that I come. There's really only one homecoming. Oh, I think there's two now that I've missed. But for years and years and years, even when I was in San Diego, I really never missed a homecoming.
Wow. So
usually I'm the only one from my class here, even though quite a few of them live on Long Island. But I'm glad to be close by and do what I can.
Great.
So, and honored to be the recipient of the Owen Award this year.
Well, it's been a pleasure getting the backstory to who you were. Because again, as a student, I only knew about some keg tossing person. And that was about all I knew. So we've kind of filled in a lot of the gaps.
I had my lifeguard T-shirt on too.
I think you did.
Yeah, I was a lifeguard. I know we're done, and I gave my closing argument.
Keep going, yeah.
But I also worked in the kitchen.
The Webb kitchen.
I worked in the Webb kitchen on weekends. I think I made $6 a day. And
it's like being a cadet again.
Yeah. And there was a Lucille Roberts down on Glen Cove Road.
Yeah, I know exactly where it was. Okay.
I taught jazzercise or water size at Lucille Roberts on my weekends.
Well, the original entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah, there you go. Well, listen, thank you.
That's been great.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been fun. Thank you.
It has been fun.